All right, welcome all. Welcome to our first forum back after the summer break on forums. I'm actually just gonna tap dance here for a moment because I know that once the voices start, people come in. So this is the chance for people to choose to join us, and then we will shut the doors.
Spontaneous combustion.
A self-lighting chalice.
It's been kind of possessed today.
Yeah. All right, so welcome to our forum. This forum is being recorded and we have participants on Zoom as well. And we welcome you for a preview of this year with hope and grief as our theme. And we'll light our chalice with the words by David Breeden. In this time of loss, in this time of asking why, we light a flame of sharing, we light a flame of commitment. In this time of why, we light this flame, sign of our searching, sign of our sharing, sign that together we remember, together we ask why, together in sadness and joy we share light. Together we celebrate what we are together.
Let me add my welcome to this first forum of the new congregational year. I'm Reverend Mary, OUUC's minister, and I use she, her pronouns. This is Reverend Sara, the Director of Community and Faith Development, also she, her pronouns. So today we're going to offer an outline for how we're organizing and planning this new congregational year. We're going to give some background about how we got here, and then let you know what we have planned and how you can engage with that as you wish. So we'll ask as we go through that you please raise your hand if you have any questions as we go along. For the folks who are joining us on Zoom, you can raise a hand or put something in the chat or put your question in the chat if you want to let Carbon know that there's something on your mind. And we'll also have some time at the end for any lingering questions that you might have. So we're going to begin with the vision of ministry for the year and our focus areas. And I'll just mention that if you want more information about this, if you go to the OUUC website, there's boxes across the top called sliders that move. And if you click on those with the slides you're going to see, it will bring you to the August 27th issue of the Spark, where we lay out some of what we're talking about today. So the information isn't far away. So we'll begin for the vision of this year. Now, OUUC has a model of shared power and authority using, the model is called policy-based governance. And this model gives the board of trustees responsibility for the vision and mission of the congregation, to discern that from the congregation, as well as the long-range and financial planning of the congregation. It gives the minister and the staff the tools and the responsibility for implementing that vision and mission. So last February, the board and I met in retreat to discuss the direction of OUUC and the challenges that we were facing. We were about a month out from the inauguration, if you remember what that time was like back in February, the inauguration of this new federal administration. And even then we knew it would be hard, and we have a better idea now of how hard it can be. So the work that we did then seems relevant and timely to me still. So based on that discussion, there we go, the board identified 3 areas for our attention this year: reconnection, identity, and community care. And this lovely graphic with love at the center was created by board member Arlene Kollerick to capture the areas and what the board considered as they wrestled with these ideas. So reconnection is about getting to know ourselves and each other once again in this new environment. It's about belonging, our theme for this month. It's about identifying our community partners and who we want to be in relationship outside of these walls. And one of the board's favorite phrases this year is, how do we have a path to yes? By knowing our organizational structure and our governance model so that we can get done all that we dream of. Identity is grappling with who we are now as a congregation and as a community, as a nation, also as individuals, and how we learn to grow emotionally, spiritually, and relationally. One of the things that I talk about with other UU ministers is I think all of us are developmental ministers right now, which means that we are focused on these big questions of who are we now and how are we called to be in this particular world at this moment. And then the last thing is community care, and I'm going to read what's on the slide because it's just beautiful. Building a culture of community care with safety, liberation, grace, differences, conflict, growth, and caring for each other. That says it all, doesn't it? So with that beautiful direction from the board, last spring, Reverend Sara and I began planning the new year.
Yeah, so as Reverend Mary said, we take the vision from the board and then figure out how we're going to operate out of that vision. And so we each year have been picking focus areas. And the 3 focus areas for our programming that rose up as we looked at the board's vision of ministry for this year were gathering, joy, and storytelling. And again, we just keep putting love at the center. So you'll hear more about that and our UU theology of love. So looking at all the programming, what we felt really needed some focus and attention this year as we face these current challenges is that we need to be a place where we can gather and welcome. And so that means in our minds that we create low barrier ways for people to come together. Now the difference, we talked about what's the difference between a low barrier gathering and a high barrier gathering, or are there medium barrier gatherings? You know, low barrier here on Sunday, you just can show up. You don't have to pre-register. You don't have to reserve a seat. There's no homework to do before Sunday worship. There's no homework that you have to do after Sunday worship. So that's a very low barrier way of gathering. Thursday dinners are also low barrier ways of gathering. People can just show up. It's not even a potluck. You don't have to bring anything. Some of the things we do are a bit more high barrier. An example of that are the Soul Matters closed groups, where you have to register at the right time of the year to get into a group, and then there's a lot of expectations of consistent attendance, homework to do, high expectations. So that's a higher barrier. And this year in particular, we're focused on lots of low barrier ways for us to gather, particularly in small groups. Within our growing congregation, it's not possible to just know everyone out of this many people. So when we get together in smaller groups, we can form deeper connections with each other and get to know each other better. Also, how do we creatively make room and welcome for all the other people who may need a place like this right now? So we think ahead to capacity and think ahead to welcome before those people are here saying, hey, I need this. We're already thinking about how do we make that ready for everyone. And then joy. So things may feel really serious in the world, but we still need joy. Joy is resistance. Joy is a radical refilling of our own batteries, but it's also just not letting this world grind us down. We still really need joy right now. So we're focused on creating opportunities to experience joy together and reminders that joy is especially important when things feel hard. So this is a new opportunity. We have a new team that I'm hoping to form, which will be the fun team. That's F-U-U-N, because why not give fun 2 U's? So if you are interested in promoting more joy, more whimsy, more resistance through fun, please talk to me, because that is a team that I'll be putting together. And how can we bring more joy into our congregational life this year? And the last focus area that we picked was storytelling. There's a lot in the board's vision of who are we now and how do we tell that. And there's storytellers in this congregation that you've assigned some people the role, like me, of storytelling, but we all have stories to tell, and we all have a part to play in telling the story of who we are. So how do we bring storytelling into the life of our congregation? One of those ways is we have started a new team called the Story Finders, and there's room for plenty more story finders if anyone would like to join that team. That is a team that is a little bit like the cross between the yearbook committee and the school newspaper, but folks who like to take pictures and want to document through photographs what we're doing in our congregation and in the larger world, or folks who want to interview and capture stories, create a podcast. I mean, really, this is any idea, there's room for it here, of how do we tell the story of who we are, where we've come from, where we're going, what we're doing. And so both of those teams are open to new members. If you want to be part of either Fun or Story Finders, please let me know. And this is some of what we have to look forward to this year.
How many of you remember After Church with Melanie Ransom? Yeah, so Melanie Ransom, in the middle of COVID, when we were all online, Melanie said she wanted to do something to help us stay connected. And so after church, she would do an interview of somebody in the congregation. One of those people interviewed was my husband, interviewed some staff, and told the story of who we were and who these people were as a way of connecting us. And so that's really what Reverend Sarah's drawing on for this storytelling, to follow Melanie's example. And it was a huge deal when Melanie's talk show went from being all online to being here in the sanctuary with the stools. And, we have our own Terry Gross here in the congregation. So the model that we're going to be using to talk about, that we used to plan the church year and that we'll be moving through this year, is from the book Act of Hope that we read from in the service this morning. Macy and Johnstone call this the work that reconnects. And this is a quote from Joanna Macy, who died in July. Yeah, she did. And man, what a legacy she left of, good work and hope for those of us who are engaging in what's happening in the world. So Macy said this: "The work that reconnects helps people discover and experience their innate connections with each other and the self-healing powers of the web of life, transforming despair and overwhelm into inspired, collaborative action." She sounds like a UU, doesn't she? So this is a spiral. This is a beautiful drawing done by someone active in the climate justice movement. And we flow through these, the spiral here. So the spiral begins with coming from gratitude. So when we focus on what we are grateful for, it quiets us, right? It can help quiet our monkey minds, as the Buddhist folks say. It can help ground us with where we are and who we are. It can open us to empathy and more confidence, and we can become fully present so that we can move to what comes next. So gratitude leads us into honoring our pain. I would name that grief. So it's noticing what is happening around us There are some good things, many things to be grateful for. There are some things that are breaking our hearts right now. And so honoring our pain for the world really opens us up to the practice of compassion, which is suffering with others, suffering with each other. We connect our heart and our mind. We begin to realize that we are not alone in private anguish, but that the anguish that we experience is shared by so many others. And it allows us to move beyond our own self and, the walls that we tend to put up, and open our hearts and minds to what is with us together. And so experiences of communal grief are so important here, because grieving alone, we might do that. We're certainly encouraged to do that in our culture. But for any of you who have experienced grief, which is probably most of us, how important are those celebrations of life that we have that are a communal way of saying goodbye and honoring someone's life? So when we honor our pain, that really opens us up to a sense of love and compassion and courage and imagination. And it can renew our sense of justice. So then as we begin to have this sense of our inner selves and what is happening around us, we can move into the next part of the spiral, which is seeing with new eyes. And Macy and Johnstone describe this as seeing with new/ancient eyes. Because those eyes might seem new to us, and they have existed for all of our human existence, right? So we can see how much we are related to all that is in this interconnected web of life. It becomes clear that environmental justice is integrated and connected to all of the other social justice areas. So as a friend of mine says, just pick one thing and do it, because it's connected to everything else. Just do the thing that you can do, and it will impact other things as well. And so that's when we can begin to get a sense of our own power, because we do have power, despite all the voices right now that are telling us that we don't, because that's the story they want us to hear, is that we have power, especially when we come together in community. And then the last part of the spiral is going forth, which is taking action, taking all of that inner and outer work we have done, the connection and the grief and the gratitude, and moving forward with a plan and action steps, not waiting for perfection or knowing that we're going to be successful, but taking the next best step that we can imagine. And then reflecting on the lessons we learn. And each time then we move back through the spiral, the going forth brings us back to a sense of gratitude. And we begin the spiral again. And each time we go through this spiral, we get new insights, new learnings, and we begin to boost our resilience and to strengthen our ability to act on behalf of all life. And as I said in the service this morning, Macy and Johnstone and the other book that we're using are focused on climate. They were written before the latest election. And we think that all of the skills that they offer, the models and the skills they offer to build resilience, will help us no matter what it is that we're facing, because we're facing a lot of things in our world right now. You want me to do the slides, or are you good? Oh, I think you go back one.
No,
Or did I put one in there ahead of you? Huh,
I think we lost one.
I think we lost one. Yeah.
Well, that's all right. Wherever it went in the editing editing shared Google slides is fine, because what we have done with this Macy model, so we'll just leave that up, is to think about the work of OUUC as being a continuous flow through this spiral. And we could take a single program and examine how that program flows through the spiral. Stewardship is a great example of one that goes all the way through gratitude, facing our pain, seeing with new eyes, going forth. We also can look at the life cycle at any given time of what is happening at OUC and see that there are certain things that are touch points that help us get in touch with gratitude, get in touch with our pain. And so good examples that would have been on this lovely graphic that I made, which I'll share with y'all later, are that gratitude can be experienced with all of our gatherings and our celebrations, of course. Yesterday, picnic in the glorious sunshine, great sense of gratitude. We can come together and celebrate on Sunday mornings in worship and ground ourselves in gratitude. Every Thursday, the way that we come together and eat together is grounding ourselves in gratitude. And there are individual and collective ways that we ground ourselves in gratitude for this world, for this life, for this interdependent web. The way that we can face our pain and sit with our pain is also both individual and collective. There are people who are facing individual, particular to their journey, pains, and we have pastoral care and caring friends. We have small group ministry, which invites people to share from a deep place of covenanted trust with one another. We also have collective rituals of grief and pain as we come together again in worship, in spiritual practices, in small groups, and in other settings where we take a moment to remember and honor things that society in general is telling us to move through quickly. We then, with seeing with new eyes or ancient eyes, of course, all of our educational programs, our classes, our forums, but again, worship manages to do just about everything, gives us an opportunity to really zoom in and zoom out, as Reverend Mary said in today's worship service. Get in close and proximate with something, get that big balcony satellite view on it, and really start to change our hearts and minds and perspectives. And going forth, sometimes because of the going forth part in that, I think we tend to only think of what we're doing in the larger world, our faith in action, but it's also how we are here, how we are building this healthy community. So the Healthy Congregations team, which focuses on creating and maintaining a covenanted community here of health, of working through conflicts, that is also a form of going forth with action as well. So all of that is part of how we collectively are engaging with this spiral, which is lovely because that means that when we looked at the spiral, it didn't mean we had to build something all new, all from scratch. It's just another way of seeing and understanding much of what we were already doing as a way of building more collective resilience to face these challenging times.
My apologies, Reverend Sara. It was probably me that, did something to take your slide out. So we'll fix that and send it out again. So Reverend Sara mentioned worship as a place where we go through this spiral every Sunday. And I just wanted to focus in, to zoom in on that just a little bit, to talk that through. So worship is a way for us to be spiritually grounded as a community. From a minister's perspective, it's the time when I minister to the entire community all together. All of us who minister to the entire community. So we do a number of things in our worship service that are focused on gratitude. One of them is in our welcome. When we welcome everyone, we draw the circle wide. It is good to be together is a statement of gratitude for our community. And we also demonstrate our gratitude in the offering. We talk about gratitude and generosity, and that it's from generous hearts that we give to our offering. Then we move into grieving. There are places in our service where we offer an invitation to those who are grieving. One of the things we keep in mind in crafting worship is that we never know what folks are going to bring in the door with them. There will be somebody celebrating and there will be somebody weeping, and because that's the reality of life. And so we do the ritual of sharing from the heart every Sunday, knowing that there will be someone who is bringing something of grief, many of us often on that Sunday. And then we have special rituals that are focused on grief, and we'll do that throughout the year. And to see with new eyes, we become aware of our connection to all that is. That can happen in the welcome. It can happen in a ritual like the water communion ritual that we did last week, if you participated in that, where we all poured our water into a communal bowl, signifying a connection to each other and to the wider world. And music is also a place where folks can see with new eyes, to feel that connection to all that is. And then we end our service. We don't call it a benediction here, but it's a benediction to go forth into the world, to take what we have learned, perhaps in the ways that we have been transformed, and go forth. So I want to talk about, this is going to be the org chart that comes up next, which is a little busy, but I put it up there to talk about the infrastructure, the organization of the congregation that we create in order to support this work that we are doing together, that we have been doing together and will continue to do. Because it's not just the staff that help support this work. We hold the container, but there are many people who are involved in holding this space for each other. So we have classes and small groups for spiritual connection. As Reverend Sara said, we are a growing congregation, and we know that it's in small groups where people get really deep. So we need people to participate in those small groups and to facilitate those small groups. And then we have buckets of teams. There's lots of teams here for people to be of service. So some of those teams are the worship arts team. The celebrants that you see up here on Sunday morning are on the worship arts team and work with me on crafting worship. There's choir and music. There's the stewardship team. All of our hospitality teams, the greeters and ushers, the coffee crew, and the Share the Plate team that decides a process and decides who we share our offering with throughout the year. All of those teams help to nurture gratitude and connection in our congregation. And then we have a number of teams that help support us in times of challenge and grief. The pastoral care team is an extension of the ministry of care that we have here. The memorials receptions team, those are the folks who do all the setup and the hospitality for all of the celebrations of life that we have here, which I will say has been an extraordinary number during my ministry with you all. We have a sewing ministry who does the beautiful quilts and lap quilts and baby blankets that we give out to those who are connected to our congregation. And then a caregiver grief support group. And then we have teams that help us with good communication and healthy boundaries. The Leadership Development Committee. We have a Safer Congregations team that helps with how do we make sure that folks are as safe as possible here. We have a Healthy Congregations team that also does training and helps whenever there is friction or conflict in the congregation. And then, of course, our Faith and Action teams help us support our activities as we go forth into the world. And I want to lift up again the teams that Reverend Sara is forming, the story finding team, the storytellers. If that appeals to you, please talk with Reverend Sara. And the fun team, that's something we really do want to focus on in bringing more joy. And then I am planning to offer a class in the winter called Writing for Worship, to invite people to write short reflections that they might share in a worship service to bring more voices into worship. You heard Curtis reflect on the theme for today and what that means for his travel to Transylvania. I'd like to invite more of that into our worship service as well. The other thing that I want to say is that we have lots of visitors coming right now, which is lovely. And just know that folks who are coming to us for the first or second or fifth time are often seeking something. And so our first question for them is, what is it that you need from us? How can we help you engage? And sometimes it's service of some kind, and sometimes it's not. And so just want to be open to recognizing that people have different capacities right now for what they can give. And what we want is for you to come in, everyone to come in, to learn, to connect, to find safety and comfort. And then when you're ready to ask the question, where do I fit in? How can I be of service here? How can I help support the growth and the interconnection of this community? And if you don't see what you're looking for, Reverend Sara and I hope that you will reach out to one or both of us so that we can have a conversation about that.
So before we move on to questions, just again, a bit about these book discussions. So you, if you were in worship, got a little preview of these 2 books. There's a 3rd book that was also for sale, Love at the Center. But we've sold all the copies that we had of the books that we talked about in worship. So you are welcome to order them from any source that is your preferred vendor of books, and I will be ordering more here as well. So these are both books that were written about eco-anxiety, climate grief. They are books about resiliency, and they are books that are worth a deep dive. So not just a one-off book discussion. This is a long, deep examination and engagement with these texts. So we are planning to hold a drop-in discussion group for each of those books once a month for the rest of this congregational program year. And you don't have to be at any particular place in reading the book. It's not a like get to this page by November kind of deal either. Engage with the book in whatever way feels right to you. And when we come together for discussion, we will be engaging with the ideas of this work that reconnects, with the idea of the 10 steps of climate grief that Laura Schmidt and Amy Mann developed for the Good Grief Network. And this will be a chance for some deep sharing and engagement with your own process around how do we face these times that we're living in, and bringing that to these discussion groups. So the Active Hope Joanna Macy book will be meeting on the 2nd Tuesday of each month at 6:30. And How to Live in a Chaotic Climate will be meeting on the 2nd Thursday of each month at 6:30. Now, some months that's going to mean that they happen on the same week, and some months that's going to mean they happen on different weeks. In the great, juggling of which day of the week did the month start on. But all are welcome to attend as often or even just once, whatever works for you, and engage with this work in a community setting in a small group. Reverend Mary and I will take turns facilitating and holding that space. So please do engage with the books at whatever speed feels right to you. Some sample questions, sorts of things that we might engage with at one of these book discussions. And I'll just invite you to sit with one of these questions for a moment and think about how we could be doing this. What can we do right now to nourish our souls and restore our energy? If you knew that you could not fail, what would you most want to do for the healing of our world? No answers to those right now, just a teaser for what we could engage with together. And so now we have time for questions from you. We'll bring the microphone around. So if you're online, feel free to raise your virtual hand or put something in the chat and Carbon will let us know. And if you're here, wait for us to bring you the microphone.
So this is just a question about how things are working. So the Soul Matters groups, it looks like there's 1 or 2 drop-in groups. Last year was the first year I'd participated in one, and I really appreciated the materials. So are the materials just going to be available? Is that something that we can go to the website to access, or?
Thank you. Yes, so it's a little bit different with Soul Matters this year because we didn't have as many facilitators who wanted to do the long-term groups. So we have one closed Soul Matter group that once it's full, it'll be full, and we'll have one drop-in. And with the copyright permissions that we have from Soul Matters, we can't post their materials electronically on our website. But we can have the printed materials here in the Commons, and I can email a PDF to people who ask for one. So it is, that's the way that the copyright is. So there are printed copies here, and those who would like to engage with the materials, you can let me know, and then I can share it with you digitally also.
And if I might just zoom out for a minute, Soul Matters is an organization that's run by OUUC folks, and they put together a packet of material for worship and for small group and for religious education and for music, all kinds of materials on a particular theme. So this morning when Curtis said our theme for the month is building belonging, that's the Soul Matters theme for this month. And so we'll be exploring that theme in worship. Our children will explore it. The small groups will explore it. So it's a way to have the entire community in a larger church focusing on the same idea in different ways. So it's a way to unite us as a larger congregation. Is that making sense? Yeah.
When will the book discussion groups start?
October is the first gathering for each, so in just a few weeks. So second Thursday and second Tuesday of October.
Which is in the same week in October.
Different weeks, actually, in
Oh,
October.
is it different? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I didn't have it on my calendar right then.
I just wanted to offer an idea for those who are looking for ways to get engaged. The book sale is a really fun event and fantastic, and 100 people from church volunteer over those couple of days. So if you want to get to know a lot of people at once, come to book sale. And there are lots of ways to volunteer and help and participate over those couple of days.
I also want to put in a plug for Janae's work around grief. And the forums that the small group discussions that you're holding here, the death cafes and such, just another way to deal with that personal grief that we might have and that existential grief that we're all dealing with right now. So thank you for offering that, Janae. Carbon, do we have any questions or comments online? No?
So for each month, I'm thinking about the book studies. Will we be asked to read pages 1 through 25, or we're just gonna be a river?
It's a river.
Okay.
It's water flows in from all directions, yes. So it really is not a class. We're not studying the books. We are in conversation with the books. And so it's not a matter of do your homework and then come ready to have a class about it. Yeah.
And these books are books where, at least in my experience and others I've talked to, you get to a particular section and pretty much your head explodes. And then it takes a little bit of time for you to say, oh man, I'm going to have to think about what that means and, what I just experienced. And that's not a read, 1 to 100 pages in any given setting. So, yeah, Carbon.
It's the bonus question there.
Oh, when will the books be back at OUUC?
I'm going to put the order in tomorrow, and one of the publishing houses, before when I ordered, it got to me at end of week. The other one was, I think, more, but they should be in 1 or 2 weeks. And for both of them, I do believe that there are audiobook versions and Kindle versions. So for anybody that prefers that format rather than paper, those are available also.
Anything else on your mind or in your heart you want to share?
Repeat, what is behind the soul of these books, how we would cover it?
Yeah, so with the books, one of them I'll address, and then I'm going to let you talk about Joanna Macy. Each of us has done a deeper read of one than the other of us has done so far. So with the How to Live in a Chaotic Climate, that book rises up out of the work of the Good Grief Network. And so it is an emotional support group around climate change and eco-anxiety that has a 10-step process that is modeled after 12-step movements around addiction recovery. So each of the steps might be something that you personally are working on for quite a while. And it could be that this, step on facing uncertainty or facing our part in the climate emergency is something that is such deep heart work that that's what you do all year and don't move on to the other of the 10 steps. So that book really does invite us to go through a process internally and then have a space to come to share and support each other as we're doing that work. So it's a wonderful book and need not be engaged at a particular speed.
And then the Joanna Macy book, Act of Hope, is more of an overview of the history, what got us here, lays out the stories, lays out the spiral that we went through, and then does a deep dive into each of those 4 areas of the spiral and then what it looks like to go through. There's lots of stories, there's lots of questions, for reflection and contemplation. And really, with the desire of moving us away from despair into, how can we engage hope? And a long chapter on what hope means and what Act of Hope means. And I would say that Joanna Macy's work, which has been going on for decades, was part of what the Good Grief Network used in order to go through the 10 steps. So if you're somebody who likes the overview and the big picture and the ideas of things, Act of Hope is a good place to start. If you're somebody who likes the concrete, what can I do, how can I go through the steps, then the How to Live in a Chaotic Climate is a good place to start. But they will certainly complement each other and interweave and fit well together, we think. Does that help, Maureen?
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
What about Love at the Center? How is that tying in?
Yeah, thank you. So Love at the Center is a collection of theological essays that the UUA has published this year as we explore what it means now that we've stated that we put love at the center as Unitarian Universalists. So this, we selected this as a good engagement with Unitarian Universalism for us this year. And I'm leading a discussion group. The book is structured as a series of essays. So we'll be discussing and reflecting on 3 essays a month on the second Wednesday of each month. And it isn't so much an answer to how do we live in times like these, as it is an answer to the question of who are we as Unitarian Universalists.
And just to zoom out again, seems to be my role today. It was in June of 2024, not long ago, that we as a denomination adopted the new values with love at the center. And so there's a lot of work right now with, so what does that mean? I mean, what could that possibly mean? It's really abstract. And so this collection of essays was an answer to what does that mean? And is a way to engage with identity, that, that part of the vision of ministry that the board put forward. Who are we now? Who are we as a denomination?
And Lorraine, do you still have a question?
Will the Tuesday and Thursday evening ones be hybrid or here or online?
They'll be hybrid, yeah. Yeah, so those two, the Tuesday and the Thursday, are both in person and on Zoom. That's what hybrid means. And the Love at the Center is only on Zoom. Yeah.
In the time for Love in the Center, it's Wednesdays at what time?
It's 7. So I heard a question, starting when? The Love at the Center discussion started this month. So we've had one discussion. That does not mean people can't join, because we only talked about essays 1 through 3, and there's a lot of essays. So essays 4 through 6 will be the October essays for anyone who would like to join. Yeah.
I'm not really a computer person, but I'd like to know if, once they are online, can you go back and see them like 2 weeks later or not?
We won't record the discussions because we're really inviting people to go deep with their own sharing. And so if you weren't present in the room, it's not really yeah, people weren't sharing with the intention of a forever audience, so we won't be recording them.
Good question.
We have our work cut out for us.
So the comment was, we have our work cut out for you. Well, yes, it's an interesting time to minister, right? Right. And, none of us do this alone, right? I don't. Reverend Sara doesn't. We have this shared ministry here, which includes all of us, really important. And we are also tending to the sustainability of things. We actually haven't scheduled as many things this year as we usually do because it's not sustainable. And we know that we need to leave some spaciousness for whatever the hell is coming that we don't know about yet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? Any on your heart, your mind?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, we did have one more.
Pardon me.
I just really want to appreciate both of you and the attention to the low barrier activities. This is really what I need right now in my life, and so that makes me feel welcome, and I'm more likely to participate.
Thank you. Yes, that's part of why all of these are drop-ins with no homework. Yes, that's the hunger I have as well, as low barrier. All right. Well, thank you all for giving some of your time on a Sunday afternoon. Quick plug for next week's forum before we end this one. Next week will be a skill builder for all on how to create and maintain small group covenant. So anyone who's in a small group, anyone who leads a small group, this will be a good skill builder to talk about how do we do covenant in our small groups. So join me for that next week.
Thank you so much for engaging with us and with this topic today. So we'll extinguish our chalice with the words of the Reverend Kevin Jago. When the candle dims, the wax almost spent, the light turns amber like a sunset. Still it provides light, still it provides heat, still it can kindle new flame and pass its glow on and contribute to new illumination. When sunsets turn to new days, when seasons transform all, when the candle dims, all is not lost. Hope continues uncertain and true, like candlelight, ready to spark again. All is not lost. We are not lost. Thank you all.